Hello, everyone. We're Group 4, and we did a strategic analysis on J.C. Penney. I'm Andrew Higdon.
I'm Becca Albrecht.
I'm Justin Coy.
I'm Scotty Keller.
And I'm Billy Pappas.
Throughout this presentation, we are going to start off by talking about the current situation of J.C. Penney. Then we're going to move into the external and internal environments of the department store industry, followed by the financial analysis of J.C. Penney, along with the value chain, some of their core competencies. Then we're going to identify some key problem areas, and then finally provide some recommendations.
To preface this analysis, a brief history of JCPenney will be conducted to illustrate how their history has led them to the point they currently reside. JCPenney was founded by James Cash Penney in 1902, and he was a believer in the golden rule, which is, do unto others as you would have others unto you. And he was able to instill this way of thinking into JCPenney early on. JCPenney experienced rapid growth following the year 1913, and in 1914, JCPenney offered their first private brand. JCPenney's ability to offer private brands allowed them to effortlessly expand early on. The company reached their peak number of stores of 2,053 in the year 1973, and as of 2016, they only have 1,100 stores. In the 90s, JCPenney started to experience demographic problems as their target audience shifted, but ultimately they were able to remain competitive in the industry. JCPenney launched their first online store in 1998, which will prove to be an important asset as consumers now search for convenience with online shopping. JCPenney experienced stagnant growth for 2 decades, leading to the Great Recession, and in 2011, Ron Johnson was hired, which hurt their financial performance even more. Johnson attempted to implement too many strategies, which ultimately caused JCPenney to become stuck in the middle as they try to be a cost leader and a differentiator.
JCPenney's mission statement reads, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. This golden rule for the company was created by founder James Cash Penney and has remained in the company for its entire existence. As compared to conventional mission statements, JCPenney's mission statement is broad and not very specific. It does not indicate the business or consumer that the company targets.
So to begin talking about the external analysis, we're going to first touch on the economic environment. The economic environment of the department store industry is most commonly measured by economic indicators such as gross domestic product, consumer price index, and the unemployment rate. As you can see in these graphs, both the GDP and CPI have been on a steady increase since the Great Recession in 2009. When GDP and CPI are high, this reflects a positive economic state of the industry, meaning consumers are willing to spend more money. If it continues to increase as predicted, profits will continue to rise in this industry because of that. In contrast, though, the unemployment rate negatively impacts the industry, but it has been on a steady decline. The sociocultural and global trends of the industry are constantly changing. Consumer buying trends are influenced by certain social groups like family, friends, and even celebrities. Currently, there's a wave of health consciousness and conscientious spending that's affecting the industry. Competitors in the department store industry need to continuously find ways to stay ahead of these trends to remain competitive. On the global level, there is currently $16.8 trillion in worldwide trade. That's in merchandise and commercial services. Most companies tend to outsource their manufacturing due to cheaper cost. And on top of this also helps expand U.S. brands into other countries like China and India and keep a constant communication on an international level. Technological advances impact how department stores operate in many ways. There are many resources companies can utilize for marketing and advertising purposes. For example, companies can access a consumer's location through their smartphone to reach nearby customers with targeted sales advertisements. These new forms of data and analytics better drive operations and raise a level of understanding of customer behaviors. Also, the continuous improvement in infrastructure and IT is providing the ability to support massive amounts of data and analyze it in real time. Data is typically captured at various interfaces like customer transaction, breakdown of sales, store performance and growth, and loyalty measurements, and even market segmentation. Most of this is captured through the store's operation software of point of sale systems. Retailers can also increase their productivity and effectiveness of employees by incorporating mobile technologies in their stores. A trend happening right now in the department store industry is having in-store tablets. These tablets can include self-service POS systems for customers to use, advertising and expansion of their product lines for customers to observe.
The main purpose of regulations imposed on the department store industry is to encourage an open and competitive business environment. This is generally done on the state level, but includes federal antitrust laws as well as labor laws that ensure fair working conditions and federal regulations that not only state reporting and disclosure guidelines, but also prohibit discrimination when it comes to credit programs that they provide. Companies are also subject to various environmental regulations imposed by federal, state, and local governments. Overall, the level of regulation for the department store industry is relatively low, with a steady increase over the years. There are 4 major market segments based on age that are used in the department store industry. These include consumers under 25, between 25 and 40, between 41 and 65, and over 66 years old. Consumers between the ages of 25 and 40 make up the largest market segment, accounting for approximately 35% of revenues. The U.S. population is most heavily concentrated between the ages of 25 and 54, and as you can see, the population pyramid to the right appears to be taking more of a square shape and is expected to continue this squaring in coming years due to the small margin of birth rates when compared to death rates, coupled with improving adult health conditions. This phenomenon could have effects on the department store industry's age-based market segments in years to come. And when it comes to store location, the Western United States is the largest region in terms of revenue and number of department stores. This region is followed by the Southeast, New England, and the Rocky Mountains. This is surprising because the South makes up a much larger percentage of the U.S. population than the West. This discrepancy could be due in part to income distributions in particular regions, specifically because the West earns a median household income that is significantly above the nation's average, while the Southeast median household income is the lowest in the nation. In 2007, the Retail Industry Leaders Association launched a Retail Sustainability Initiative, or RSI. The RSI committee focuses on these 5 key areas in order to reduce their operational footprint, and these 4 key trends have emerged in the industry in service of this goal. An example of how sustainability leaders throughout the industry are focusing on their operational footprints is the Kohl's Cares initiative. And this initiative has entered into a 20-year power purchase agreement with SunEdison to install solar power systems at select stores. And as of June 2015, these systems account for approximately 40% of the power at each of these stores.
Next, an analysis on Porter's 5 forces will be conducted. The forces are generally unfavorable to companies competing within the department store industry. This means that the overall profit potential of the department store industry is going to be low. In order for an industry to be attractive, it should have high entry barriers, weak bargaining power of suppliers and buyers, few threats from substitute products, and moderate rivalry among competitors. As shown from the table included in the slide, Porter's 5 forces for the department store industry do not meet the standards needed for an attractive industry. The key forces that will be analyzed in depth for this industry include the threat of new entrants, the threat of substitute products, and the rivalry among existing competitors. The department store industry has a medium threat of new entrants. The threat of entrants has increased over the past decade because of the rising popularity of online shopping. Online retailers have several distinct advantages over brick-and-mortar stores, such as cost advantages, convenience, and they also have the ability to sell worldwide. This, however, is not enough to make the threat of entry high within the industry. Brick-and-mortar stores still have several advantages that block out potential new entrants. The first reason is that the industry is comprised of relatively few large competitive firms. In fact, the top 4 retailers in this industry are expected to take up 73.3% of the industry revenue in 2016. Since these established companies continue to take up a majority of the industry revenue, they face little threat of losing market share from new entrants. Also, incumbent firms may have cost and quality advantage over potential entrants. The already existing firms also have large economies of scales, which make competing difficult for new entrants. The large firms are able to buy their products in large quantities, which reduces their cost per unit and it creates a cost advantage. This creates a great chance for profits over firms looking to enter the industry. Incumbent firms also have a great advantage because of the demand side of economies. Customers want to be in a network with a large volume of buyers, which gives the larger firms an instant advantage over smaller firms. Finally, new firms looking to open a physical store face extremely high barriers to entry because there is a high cost of investment in capital. Incumbent firms, however, are already established and they have a clear customer base. The next threat that will be looked at is the threat of substitutes, and this is one of the greatest threats the department store industry faces. The first reason that the threat of substitutes is high is because there is a threat from retailers in other industries such as Walmart and Target. A majority of stores within the department store industry and other industries offer undifferentiated products, which means that customers face low switching costs. Even if a department store offers a source of differentiation over another department store, there is still a high chance that the product can be substituted from another industry. Another threat of substitutes that the industry faces is with e-tailers. E-tailers have an advantage over brick-and-mortar stores because they do not have to open a physical location. They have the ability to sell worldwide and they offer more convenience to customers. As shown from the chart in the slide, there has been a steady increase in e-commerce sales from 2006 to 2015. The trends among consumers are rapidly changing, and it will be important for firms within the department store industry to capitalize on these new buyer trends in order to stay relevant, or else they will continue facing a high degree of substitution. Finally, the rivalry among existing competitors within the department store industry is high. The first reason for this is that department stores are often going to be offering undifferentiated products. This increases competition because the firms are going to be trying to offer the lowest cost of products that can be found in any of the stores. Along with the fact that department stores will be competing on cost, the annual growth rate for the retail industry is declining. One of the most significant threats to brick-and-mortar stores is the rising presence of online sales. As online sales continue to grow, the growth of the retail industry is continuing to slow. It is predicted that revenue will continue to slow by 2.6% on average until the year 2020, which totals $143.5 billion. This creates more competition among the existing firms because they're going to have to take market shares from each other to remain competitive within this industry. Another cause of the high rivalry among firms is low switching costs. Consumers are likely going to be able to find the same products at any department store they choose, which is why the consumers will generally just go to the department store closest to them. Convenience plays an important part in the frequency that a customer would select one store over another, which is also a reason why e-tailing is becoming so popular. As consumer trends shift and customers begin to shop more online, the firms within this industry will see an even greater increase in the rivalry. Since the majority of the products offered by department stores are undifferentiated, the location of the company's store and their ability to develop a strong online presence in the future will be a significant determinant in their ability to perform well financially.
When we look at the retail department store industry, we see that it's in the mature to decline stage. And when we look at the chart to the right, you can see two lines. The blue is the retail in-store, and that's at a 4.1% decrease over the past 15 years, while the online market is at a 10.3 increase. That's due to three reasons: conscientious consumers, online price points, and online convenience. And basically, it's just saying that those online are getting cheaper prices, and this in turn is taking people away from in-store sales. So when we go in depth to look at the industry structure, we see that there's 5 major players. But what's really interesting is they only make up for 16% of this $266 billion industry. So where's all the rest of this 84% coming from? That's the real question. Now, when we look at these big 5, we see that 36% is Macy's, 27% Nordstrom, Kohl's with 24%, 9% with JCPenney, and 4% with Sears. So next, we want to find out what's Macy's doing that's so drastically different and captures the market share from Sears' only mere 4%.
Now moving on to some of JCPenney's core competencies. JCPenney obtains a sustainable competitive advantage through core competencies of customization, in-store services, and their private brands. The use of customization in their interior design services adds value to their company. JCPenney's custom window program provides private in-home consultations and design sessions with an interior designer from the company. The resources available to customers in their stores include JCPenney Optical, JCPenney Salon, Wedding and Baby Registries, Sephora inside JCPenney, JCP Portraits, and Telefora Floral Services. These well-known services add additional value to customers other than their merchandise that is costly for other companies to imitate. Their private brands include St. John's Bay, Worthington, and Marathon Hatch, just to name a few important ones. These also add value and are exclusive to JCPenney, which play an important role in their differentiation.
So next we look at corporate governance, and basically we're going to be looking at the board of directors, 11 of which are outside, 2 are inside. If we look to the graph to the right, we can see their employer and their position in the company that they currently hold. To the right of that, we see stock shares that they hold in the JCPenney company. And then to the right of that, we see the years that they have served on the board. Now, if you look at the graph to the left, we see all of the outside directors and their specific committees that they hold inside the JCPenney Board of Director organization. So looking at strategic leadership, we see 2 pictures. The right shows Ron Johnson, who was the CEO back in 2010, and now we have Marvin Ellison, who is the new CEO of JCPenney, and they have kind of 2 different strategic leadership styles. So first, Ron Johnson had kind of an executive strategy, but really wasn't communicated down to the store level, whereas Marvin Ellison to the left, he has a more hands-on in-store approach for executives going to in-store and communicating these integration policies. Next, Ron Johnson had an everyday low price, flat rate strategy, which cut discounts, whereas the new CEO focused on supply chain and is gone back to coupons and discounting. The final bullet point between the 2, we have Ron Johnson, who is focused on boutique layout, but kind of cut JCPenney branding, so kind of devalued their brand. Whereas we have Marvin Ellison, who is focused on omni-channel integration and kind of driving online sales to.
The next section that will be analyzed is JCPenney's financial performance over the past 5 years. JCPenney has shown poor financial performance when compared to the industry average. The industry average consists of Macy's, Kohl's, Sears, and Nordstrom. The key financial measures that will be analyzed include revenue, debt-to-equity ratio, return on assets, and inventory turnover. The first financial measure we'll look at is revenue. Revenue is an important measure because the department store industry is very concentrated and any loss in market share could directly impact the revenue for a given year. JCPenney has consistently had a much lower yearly revenue than the industry average. The graphs show a noticeable drop in revenue from 2012 to 2013 and a slight drop in 2014. In order to counter the rapid decline in revenue, JCPenney started to rely on debt financing. This can be seen with slight increase in revenue in 2015 and 2016. However, the industry average has shown declining revenues from 2012 to 2016, which represents the declining growth of the department store industry. When viewing the previous slide on revenue, there's a clear drop in the year 2012 to 2013. However, in 2014, the drop was not as significant. This can be illustrated with the debt-to-equity ratio chart on this slide. JCPenney had little reliance on debt financing in the year 2012, but following the significant drop in revenue from 2012 to 2013, JCPenney had to increase their debt financing to bring their revenue back up in order to avoid losing market share. In 2014 and 2015, JCPenney had significantly larger debt-to-equity ratio than the industry average. Since JCPenney decided to borrow more money in 2015 and 2016, they were able to also see increases in revenue those years. This is extremely risky for JCPenney because they run the risk of not being able to pay back the money they have borrowed. The next financial measure is the return on assets. JCPenney has continued to be lower than the industry average, as JCPenney's return on assets is negative while the industry average is positive. The reason for JCPenney's negative return on assets is because they have been earning a negative net income over the past 5 years. With their increasing use of debt financing to remain competitive, they have not been able to generate a positive net income. Since JCPenney has a negative net income, it illustrates that they are unable to utilize their assets to generate earnings as well as their competitors. If JCPenney continues to produce negative net incomes, they run the possibility of being horizontally integrated by a competitor or even the risk of going bankrupt. The final financial measurement analyzed is inventory turnover. As shown in the graph, JCPenney has been consistently lower than the industry average, which means they are not efficiently managing their inventory. This could be a result of having too many assets, since they want to remain a threat in the industry. JCPenney is not able to sell their assets as quickly as the competition. The graph also illustrates that there is a gradual decline in the inventory turnover for both the industry average and JCPenney. This could be a result of changing consumer trends. The increase of e-commerce is quickly rising, while the popularity of brick-and-mortar stores is declining. This lowers the inventory turnover for JCPenney and the industry average because less customers are shopping at their stores.
A few of JCPenney's biggest strengths include their strong customer base, their partnership with Sephora, and their coupons and promotions. Some of their weaknesses include their negative return on assets and the fact that they're ranked number 4 on market share out of the 5 largest department stores in the industry. Externally, some opportunities JCPenney can take advantage of include growing their omnichannel marketing, vertically integrating to save on costs, and changing consumer trends. Finally, threats facing the company include competition from other industries, easily substitutable products, and declining growth of the industry.
One of the key problems that JCPenney is facing is changing consumer buying trends as it relates to the socio-cultural dimension of the macro environment. Online shopping is becoming increasingly popular as customers want convenience. These changing buyer trends have significantly impacted JCPenney's performance in the last 5 years, as JCPenney has tried to create different strategies to counter these new trends. These changing trends are lowering the total yearly revenue that JCPenney's brick-and-mortar stores are able to generate, which is making them use more debt financing to remain competitive. And this has also caused JCPenney to earn negative return on assets as their net income continues to remain negative. JCPenney lacks value innovation, and if they are not able to adjust to the changing trends, they will run the risk of continuing to lose customers to the department stores, online sales, and even other industries.
The critical issue facing JCPenney is tied to the implications they faced in 2009. Many people remember JCPenney as being a stuck-in-the-middle company between cost leadership, business level strategy, and a differentiation strategy because of the strategy implemented by former CEO Ron Johnson. JCPenney still struggles to this day to fully utilize a differentiation strategy, but they are slowly getting there. We have a few recommendations to help JCPenney truly utilize a differentiation strategy. First is to increase promotions and sales, both online and in-store. JCPenney customers are known for taking advantage of coupons, and increasing promotions will draw new customers and also retain their current customers and also increasing their loyalty. A decrease in the number of vendors JCPenney uses will also free up some resources for JCPenney to use and can implement these towards fulfilling their differentiation strategy. Finally, the last recommendation we have for JCPenney is to focus on their private brands and omni-channel marketing. Focusing on these two aspects of their business will keep them competitive for years to come. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to your feedback.